You need to leave this property immediately. I'm not asking again.
Stop right there. The shout cut through the pine trees like a car horn in a quiet church parking lot. I had barely stepped out of my truck, one boot on the gravel and the other still on the running board, when a woman in a neon yellow HOA patrol vest marched straight at me. Her sunglasses were huge, her mouth was already tight, and her clipboard was held like a badge. I didn't even have time to breathe in that clean mountain air. She pointed at my front bumper like it had personally offended her. "You're in violation," she snapped, like she'd been waiting all day to say it. This wasn't my first run-in with the local HOA, but it was the first time someone tried to find me. The second, my tires stopped rolling. My cabin sat near Lake Alderwood, a beautiful stretch of water surrounded by tall pines and narrow roads. It was the kind of place people came to relax, grill burgers, and watch the sun drop behind the hills. But the neighborhood association acted like it was guarding a secret military base. Signs were everywhere: speed limits, quiet hours, approved paint colors, and warnings about unauthorized parking. Still, I owned my cabin fair and square. And I hadn't even done anything yet. The woman stopped so close. I could smell her perfume, something sharp and expensive. She flipped open her clipboard and started reading like she was announcing charges in court. "Parking too close to the curb," she said. "Unregistered vehicle." She leaned in and squinted at my license plate like she was doing detective work. "And you have materials in the truck bed. Construction is not allowed without prior architectural committee approval." I looked back at my truck bed. It had a small box of documents, a folded camp chair, and a cooler. "Materials," I repeated. "Those are papers and lunch." She didn't even blink. "That is not my concern," she said, tapping her pen like a metronome. "I'm issuing you a fine. $200, payable immediately." Immediately. That word hit me funny. HOAs usually mailed notices. They didn't demand money like a parking lot scam. She held out a little square card with a QR code on it. "You can pay through our portal right now," she said, voice sweet for half a second, then sharp again. "Or I can authorize a tow. Your choice." I stared at the QR code, then back at her face. "Who are you?" I asked. She lifted her chin like I was supposed to recognize her on sight. "I'm the compliance chair," she said. "Everyone knows me." "And you," she glanced at my driver's side window where my temporary cabin pass sat, "are new, or you're pretending to be." I felt my jaw tighten. I wasn't new. I'd owned this place for 3 years. I just didn't live here full-time, and apparently that made me an easy target. "I'm not paying anything on the side of the road," I told her. "If there's a real violation, mail me a notice like normal." She smiled like I'd just told a joke. "Oh, we don't do normal here," she said. "We do efficient." She scribbled something dramatic on her clipboard, then tore off a bright orange slip and slapped it on my windshield like a parking ticket. "Fine doubles after 24 hours, she added. "And if you remove this notice, that's an additional violation." She stepped back and looked pleased with herself. Like she'd just protected the entire community from a major threat, me and my cooler. I could feel irritation rising, but I forced myself to stay calm. "What's your name?" I asked again, steady. She paused like it was insulting to ask. "Kara," she said, then corrected herself fast. "Ms. Hensley. But you can call me ma'am." Her tone was the kind that dared you to challenge it. I nodded slowly, more to myself than to her. "Okay, Ms. Hensley," I said. "I'm going inside." "I have a meeting." She laughed out loud. "A meeting," she repeated. "At a cabin." She glanced past me at the porch like she expected to catch a secret party. "That doesn't excuse violations." She stepped in front of me as I started walking. "You're not going anywhere until this is handled." That's when I realized she wasn't just enforcing rules. She wanted control. She wanted the moment. She wanted me flustered, digging for my phone, begging her to work with me, but I wasn't going to give her that. I took a slow breath and pointed toward my door. "I'm the property owner," I said, "and I'm going inside now." Ms. Hensley lifted her hand like she could physically stop me. "If you cross that threshold without paying, I'll call the sheriff," she warned. "I know people. Do you understand who you're dealing with?" I didn't answer. I just walked. My cabin looked calm and ordinary, which made the whole scene feel even more surreal. The wood siding was freshly stained. The porch swing gently creaked in the breeze, and the lake shimmered through gaps in the trees. I had spent the morning cleaning up because this wasn't a casual hangout. It was important. The reason I was here wasn't to vacation. It wasn't even to fix anything. I was here because, inside my cabin, I was meeting someone who didn't like public attention. Someone who had asked for privacy. And now Ms. Hensley was basically screaming fine. In the driveway, when I reached the steps, she followed close behind, heels crunching on gravel. "Sir?" she barked. "I'm speaking to you." I turned at the top step. "I heard you," I said. "I'll respond in writing after my meeting." She rolled her eyes so hard, I thought they might actually get stuck. "You people always say that," she snapped. "You think because you own a cabin, you can ignore the rules." She leaned forward, lowering her voice like she was sharing a secret. "Pay now, and I'll reduce it to 100. Cash, Venmo, whatever." That was the moment I knew this wasn't just HOA nonsense. This was something else. I didn't accuse her, because accusing someone like that in the moment just makes them louder. Instead, I pulled my phone out calmly and hit record audio only, screen facing down. "Just to be clear," I said, "you're asking me to pay you personally right now." Her eyes flicked to my phone. "Don't record me," she snapped. Then she recovered and smoothed her vest like she was on camera. "You're paying the association," she corrected quickly. Through the portal, she shoved the QR card closer to me again. "Scan it." I didn't scan anything. "I'm going inside," I said. "If you want to discuss this, send me proper documentation." I turned the knob. Ms. Hensley stepped forward and actually blocked my door with her body. "No," she said, flat. "Not until this is resolved." That was a huge mistake. Legally, socially, every way. This was my property. She had no right to stop me from entering my own home. "Move," I said, not loud, but firm. She stared me down like she expected me to shrink back. When I didn't, she jabbed a finger toward my chest. "I can put a lien on your cabin," she said. "I can have you banned from the lake access. I can make your life miserable." Her voice was almost excited, like she enjoyed the threat. I leaned slightly toward her, still calm. "You're trespassing," I said. "Step away from my door." That should have ended it. Any reasonable person would have backed up. But Ms. Hensley wasn't reasonable. She was fueled by the idea that she ran this neighborhood. She scoffed and crossed her arms. "Call the cops then," she said. "I'll tell them you're refusing to comply." She glanced at my truck again. "And that you're doing unauthorized work." I almost laughed at that because it was so ridiculous. But then I heard movement inside the cabin's soft footsteps. The meeting was already starting. I didn't want this scene bleeding into what I had scheduled. So I tried one last time, polite but final. "Ms. Hensley," I said, "I'm asking you to step off my porch." She tilted her head and smiled like a teacher catching a kid cheating. "Make me," she said. Then she pulled her phone out and started dialing with dramatic finger taps. "Sheriff's office," she said loudly as the line rang. "I need an officer at—" I heard her give my address. "We have a man refusing HOA compliance and acting aggressive." Aggressive. I had barely raised my voice. She looked at me while she spoke, like she was daring me to react. The front door opened behind me. I felt it more than I saw it at first, the shift of air, the hinge squeak. A calm voice came from inside. "Is everything all right out here?" I turned slightly. Standing just inside my cabin was a man in a dark suit. No jacket, sleeves neat, expression steady. Beside him stood another person, short hair, business casual, holding a folder. The suited man's presence was quiet but heavy. Like a judge walking into a courtroom, Ms. Hensley kept talking into her phone, not realizing she had an audience. "Yes, he's refusing," she said. "I'm the compliance chair. He's violating community regulations." The suited man stepped onto the porch. He didn't look at me first, he looked at Ms. Hensley. "Ma'am," he said, even tone, "what exactly is the situation?" Ms. Hensley covered her phone's mic with a finger and snapped, "This is HOA business. Go back inside." The suited man didn't move. He just watched her, patient, as if he'd dealt with people like her his whole career. I cleared my throat. "Ms. Hensley," I said, "I told you I have a meeting." She huffed. "With who?" she demanded. She turned, finally taking in the suit, the folder, the composed posture. "And who are you supposed to be?" The man extended his hand not to her, but in a calm, formal gesture that signaled authority. "My name is Daniel Mercer," he said. "I'm the Attorney General for the state." The words landed like a rock in a still pond. Ms. Hensley froze so hard it looked like someone had hit pause. Her phone stayed pressed to her ear, but her mouth opened without sound. I watched her eyes flicker, fast processing, recalculating, panicking. The person holding the folder stepped forward and added, "And I'm his deputy chief of staff. We were invited here for a scheduled meeting." Ms. Hensley's face changed color, like the blood drained out in real time. On the other end of Ms. Hensley's call, someone was still talking. "Ma'am, ma'am." The dispatcher asked faintly through her speaker. Ms. Hensley swallowed and lowered her phone slowly, like it weighed 50 pounds. "Attorney General." She repeated, voice suddenly smaller. "Like the real one." The ag nodded once. "Yes," he said. "The real one." He looked at the orange notice on my windshield, then back to her. "You're attempting to collect a fine on the spot?" he asked. Miss Hensley forced a laugh that sounded like a squeaky hinge. "It's just our procedure," she said quickly. "We're very organized here." The ag's expression didn't change, but the air got colder. "What statute or governing document authorizes you to demand immediate payment at someone's residence?" he asked. Ms. Hensley blinked fast. "Well, we are a bylaws board," she stammered. The deputy chief of staff opened the folder and quietly flipped through papers like she already knew what she was going to find. Ms. Hensley tried to recover by getting loud again. "He's blocking compliance," she insisted, pointing at me like I was the issue. "He refused to pay, and he's recording me," and the ag held up a hand. "Ma'am," he said, still calm, "step off this porch." For the first time since she arrived, Ms. Hensley hesitated. She looked at the AG, then at me, then at the deputy with the folder, and her confidence cracked. "I have authority here," she muttered. The AG didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "You do not have authority to prevent a property owner from entering his residence," he said. "And you do not have authority to threaten law enforcement action based on a private association dispute." Ms. Hensley tried again, desperate. "But the rules," she said. "We have rules for everyone." The AG nodded slightly. "Then follow lawful procedures," he replied. "Not intimidation." Ms. Hensley backed down one step, then another, like gravity finally started working again. "I was just doing my job," she said, softer now. The deputy chief of staff spoke for the first time, voice clear and businesslike. What is your full name and role on the board? She asked. Ms. Hensley's eyes darted. Why do you need that? She challenged, but it didn't have any bite anymore. The deputy didn't blink. Because your conduct is now part of a formal record, she said. Ms. Hensley's shoulders stiffened. She looked like she wanted to run. But she also didn't want to look like she was running. I finally stepped aside and opened the door wider. General Mercer, I said, we can go inside. He nodded, but he didn't move yet. He looked at Ms. Hensley one more time. You called the sheriff, he said. Cancel the call. Ms. Hensley fumbled her phone. Okay, she said, tapping the screen too hard, missing buttons. I could see her hands shaking now. She put the phone to her ear again. Never mind, she said, forcing cheer into her voice. False alarm. Then she ended the call and stared at the ground like it might open up and save her. The AG's tone stayed controlled. Leave the property, he said. Now. Ms. Hensley stepped off the porch and marched toward the driveway like she could still pretend she was in charge. But every few steps, she glanced over her shoulder like she expected someone to stop her and apologize. Nobody did. I watched her rip the orange notice off my windshield and crumple it in her fist, probably hoping to erase the evidence. I didn't say a word. My phone was still recording audio. The deputy made a small note in her folder. Ms. Hensley reached her little golf cart parked near the road. Yes, she had an HOA golf cart and climbed in too fast. Gravel sprayed as she peeled away, losing a bit of control before correcting and disappearing around the bend. Inside. The cabin suddenly felt quiet again, but my heart was still pounding. The Attorney General sat at my kitchen table like it was the most normal thing in the world. The deputy set her folder down and looked at me. Are you all right? She asked. I nodded. Yeah, I said. Just surprised? The AG gave a small, knowing look. You said the association had gotten aggressive, he said. I didn't expect a live demonstration within 2 minutes of arrival. I exhaled slowly and slid my phone onto the table. I recorded that, I said. Audio only. The deputy nodded. Good, she said. Do not delete it. Here's why they were at my cabin in the first place. For months. People in the area had been complaining that the HOA board was acting like a private government, chewing random fines, blocking residents from lake access, and threatening liens for petty things. I wasn't the only one. My neighbor, an older guy named Mr. Larkin, got fined for having a non-approved bird feeder. Another family got threatened because their kid's bike was visible from the street. It would have been funny if it wasn't constant and stressful. I filed a formal complaint after the HOA tried to charge me inspection fees that weren't in the rules. Someone at the state level took it seriously enough. Send the AG's office to hear it directly. The AG leaned forward, hands clasped. Tell me everything from the start, he said. So I did. I explained how the HOA kept changing policies without votes, how they refused to provide clear accounting, and how they relied on fear. They also tried to get people to pay immediately, I added, like it's a shakedown. The deputy pulled out a printed screenshot. Is this the payment QR code she tried to give you? She asked. I blinked. Yes, I said, surprised. How did you? She tapped the page. We received multiple reports of a QR code directing payments to a third-party processor, she said. We're verifying where that money actually goes. The AG nodded slowly, and I could tell the calmness wasn't softness, it was control. An HOA can enforce covenants, he said, careful and clear. But they cannot impersonate law enforcement, block access to property, or collect money in a way that violates consumer protection laws. He wasn't giving me a personal legal lecture. He was speaking generally, like someone building a case. And if funds are being diverted or misrepresented, the deputy added, that becomes a different kind of problem. I thought about Ms. Hensley offering to reduce the fine if I paid now. It made my stomach turn. The AG glanced toward the window where my truck sat. "Today helped," he said, "because it showed exactly how they operate." Section 28. About 20 minutes later, a county patrol car drove slowly past my cabin. Not lights and sirens, just a normal roll-by. The deputy looked out the window. "That might be related to the call she made," she said. I stepped onto the porch and raised a hand as the car stopped. The deputy joined me with a calm, official smile. The deputy sheriff, a tired-looking man with kind eyes, got out. "We got a report of an aggressive subject refusing compliance," he said, sounding like he already suspected it was nonsense. Then he noticed the AG standing behind us in the doorway. The deputy sheriff's posture changed instantly. "Sir," he said, surprised. "Attorney General." The AG nodded. "Deputy," he replied. Simple. The deputy sheriff looked embarrassed. "So, no emergency?" he asked. The AG shook his head. "No emergency," he said. "But I'd like to document that a false report may have been made to prompt law enforcement involvement." The deputy sheriff sighed like he'd been dragged into HOA drama before. "Understood," he said. He glanced at the driveway and then back at me. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. "I'm fine," I said. "She tried to stop me from entering my own cabin." The deputy sheriff's eyes narrowed slightly. "That's not okay," he said. He took a few notes and asked for Ms. Hensley's name. The deputy chief of staff provided it without hesitation. When the patrol car left, the cabin felt like a war room, not a vacation place. Papers spread across my table. HOA letters, screenshots of emails, payment requests, and a timeline I'd typed out. The deputy chief of staff organized everything with quick, practiced movements. The AG asked careful questions. "Did they ever give you a chance to dispute fines?" he asked. "In writing." I shook my head. "They claim there's a committee," I said, "but it's the same 3 board members. And they never respond unless it's to threaten more fees." The deputy underlined something. "Pattern," she murmured. The AG's voice stayed level. "A pattern is what we need," he said. "And you just gave us one at the front door." That evening, my neighbor, Mr. Larkin, walked over when he saw the state vehicle parked near my cabin earlier. He moved slow, leaning on a cane, but his eyes were sharp. "You got visitors?" he asked carefully. I hesitated, but the AG nodded at me, giving permission. "Mr. Larkin," I said, "this is Attorney General Mercer." Mr. Larkin's eyebrows shot up. "Well, I'll be," he whispered. He looked almost emotional. "I've been writing letters for months," he said. "Nobody listens." The AG shook his hand. "I'm listening now," he said. Mr. Larkin told his story fines threats and how the board singled out anyone who questioned them. The deputy took notes nonstop. Before the AG left, he stood near my fireplace and looked me straight in the eye. "What happened today is exactly why people stop speaking up," he said. "They get intimidated into silence." I nodded. "That's what she wanted," I said, "to make me feel small." The AG's voice was firm, but not dramatic. "You did the right thing by staying calm and documenting," he said. "Let my office handle the rest." The deputy chief of staff handed me a card with a direct contact number. "If anyone from the HOA contacts you," she said, "save the messages. Don't argue. Don't pay anything on the spot. Just document and forward it." I agreed. As they walked out, the AG looked at my door. "Also," he added, "that porch is yours. No one gets to claim it." The next morning, I woke up to 3 texts from unknown numbers and 2 emails from the HOA. The tone had changed. Overnight from bossy to panicked. One email said there had been a miscommunication and that the fine notice placed on my vehicle was void. Another message said Ms. Hensley acted independently and didn't represent the board. That made me laugh, because she had been wearing a vest that basically screamed, "I represent the board." I forwarded everything to the Deputy Chief of Staff. She replied in under 10 minutes, "Received. Keep them coming." Round lunchtime, I saw an HOA golf cart slow down near my driveway, then speed up without stopping. Whoever it was didn't want another face-to-face conversation. 2 days later, a formal letter arrived in my mailbox with the state seal on it, not addressed to me, but to the HOA. I only saw it because Mr. Larkin called me, voice shaking with excitement. "They got a letter," he said. "Certified mail. Big deal." Word traveled fast in a small community. People whispered at the mailbox cluster like it was a courtroom hallway. That evening, another neighbor young mom named Elise knocked on my door. "Is it true the state is investigating?" She asked quietly, like she was afraid the trees would report her. I didn't give details. I just said, "People are finally paying attention." She nodded with relief. "Good," she said, "because they've been terrifying everyone." The HOA announced an emergency meeting at the clubhouse the following week. Emergency meetings were rare, but suddenly they were acting like the sky was falling. I went mostly to listen. The room was packed full-time residents, weekend cabin owners, retirees, young families. Everyone looked tense. The board sat at a long table with name placards, water bottles, and forced smiles. Ms. Hensley was there too, sitting slightly behind them, arms crossed, eyes hard. When the board president started speaking, his voice was shaky. "We want to assure everyone," he said, "that our association operates within the law." People murmured. A man near the back called out, "Then why are you collecting fines like a toll booth?" The room erupted. Ms. Hensley stood up like she couldn't help herself. "This is out of control," she snapped. "We are maintaining standards." Someone shouted back, "You're harassing people?" Another person yelled, "You threatened to tow my car for being 2 inches over a line." The board president banged a little gavel that did absolutely nothing. Then a woman in a gray blazer walked in and calmly approached the front. She introduced herself as a representative from the Attorney General's office. The room went silent so fast you could hear the vending machine hum. The representative held up a document. "Your association has been notified," she said, "to preserve records and cease certain collection practices immediately." Ms. Hensley's face tightened like a knot. The board tried to talk their way out of it, but you could tell they weren't prepared for someone who knew the law better than they did. The AG's representative asked for meeting minutes, financial statements, and proof of authorization for instant fines. She asked about the QR code payment system. She asked who had access to the accounts. The board members started looking at each other instead of answering. That's when the community realized something important. These people weren't powerful. They were just loud. And the second someone louder, someone official showed up, their confidence crumbled. Ms. Hensley tried to speak again, but the representative cut her off politely. "Ma'am," she said, "you will have an opportunity to respond through counsel." Over the next month, things changed fast. The HOA stopped issuing driveway fines. The threatening letters slowed down. The lake access gate, which had mysteriously been broken every time certain residents tried to use it, suddenly worked perfectly. The board posted notices about updated processes and transparency. Translation: they were scared. Then, one afternoon, Mr. Larkin called again. "You sitting down?" he asked. "Board resigned," he said. 3 of them. And Ms. Hensley, she's stepping away pending review. He didn't sound happy. He sounded relieved, like someone who had been holding their breath for years finally let air out. "I wish I could tell you." Ms. Hensley walked over and apologized like a movie villain learning a lesson. She didn't. People like that rarely do. What I can tell you is this. After that day on my porch, she stopped showing up at my cabin. She stopped leaving orange notices. She stopped acting like a neighborhood dictator. And most importantly, the community started speaking up together. Neighbors shared emails, compared fine notices, and asked questions in meetings instead of whispering in driveways. The biggest change wasn't the investigation or the letters. It was that fear stopped working. Once people saw that authority was mostly an act, the act didn't sell anymore. Looking back, the wildest part is how close I was to getting pulled into her game. If I'd argued louder, if I'd shoved past her, if I'd paid just to make her go away, she would have won. Instead, I stayed calm, documented what happened, and walked into my cabin where the state attorney general was waiting at my kitchen table. Ms. Hensley tried to find me on the spot like I was some random rule breaker, never realizing I was meeting the one person in the state who could shine a light on exactly what she was doing. So if you ever deal with someone who uses rules like weapons, remember this: you don't have to fight dirty to win. You just have to stand your ground, keep receipts, and let the right people see the truth.